Hello friends, let's learn some literary devices. The first in the series is alliteration. Alliteration is a repetition of initial consonant sound in a line. For example, 6 slippery snails slid silently southward, swiftly slithering through slimy soil. The initial consonant sound S is repeated. Mickey Mouse. The initial consonant sound M is repeated. Dunkin' Donuts. The initial consonant sound D is repeated in this. What is the purpose of alliteration? It makes the verses melodious. It adds musicality and rhythm to the poem. It makes the poem more engaging and memorable. It creates a certain mood or atmosphere in the poem. Let's read some examples from literature. The first one is from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. The consonant sound D is repeated. 5 miles meandering with a mazy motion. The sound M is repeated in this line from Kubla Khan by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. The dark, damp night. The sound D is repeated in this. The line has been taken from Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes. Here, the initial consonant sound F is repeated, and the line has been taken from William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. The next literary device is assonance. Assonance is a repetition of similar vowel sounds in a line of poetry or prose. Let's see the examples. Good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. The diphthong I, the sound I is repeated. A stitch in time saves 9. Again, the I sound is repeated. No pain, no gain. Here, the diphthong A is repeated. What is the purpose of assonance? It creates lyrical effect. It adds rhythm to the poem. It unifies the poem. It enhances the mood in the poem or a prose work. Let's see the examples from literature. The first is a line from Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee. The second example is from Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats. Thou still unravished bride of quietness. And last, the line has been taken from The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. The next literary device is anaphora. Anaphora is a repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of successive sentences. For example, stay safe, stay well, stay happy. The word stay is repeated. Great haste makes great waste. The word great is repeated here. We came, we saw, we conquered. The word we is repeated. What is the purpose of anaphora? It conveys or emphasizes meaning, contributes to the rhythm and flow of the text, creates a sense of elevated or formal tone, provides structural unity to a piece of writing, creates a sense of anticipation or suspense. Examples from literature. The example has been taken from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It is the beginning of the novel A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of freedom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. We see repetition of the phrase it was. The next literary device is apostrophe. Apostrophe is a poetic phrase or speech that is addressed to a subject that is not literally present in the literary work. The subject may be dead, absent, an inanimate object, or even an abstract idea. For example, Shakespeare, your words still inspire us today. Here, Shakespeare himself is not present, but he's being addressed to. Thank you, my guardian angel, for this sparking space. Heaven help us. Again, we are addressing heaven, which is an abstract idea. What is the purpose of apostrophe? It conveys strong emotions by directly addressing an absent person, object, or abstract concept. Rhetorical emphasis. To emphasize a point or argument by addressing it directly. To create vivid imagery by vividly describing or conversing with an absent subject. Let's learn the examples from literature. The first is from the poem Death Be Not Proud by John Donne. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. The next example is from Walt Whitman's poem, O Captain, My Captain. O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The last example is from Robert Frost's poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. The last in the list is anachronism. Anachronism is a placement of something, some event, outside its proper historical time period or geographical area. It's an error of chronology or timeline in a literary work. For example, a character in a historical novel using a smartphone to call for help. A caveman in a prehistoric story using a wristwatch to tell the time. Let's look at the purpose of anachronism. It adds humor and irony. It highlights contrasts between different periods of time. It comments on the present through a historical setting. The examples from literature. The first is Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. In the play set in ancient Rome, Cassius mentions a clock striking 3. Even though mechanical clocks which could move or strike were not invented until much later. The next example is Sir Walter Scott's Ivanhoe. The historical novel set in the 12th century includes descriptions of tobacco, which wasn't introduced to England until centuries later. Thank you for watching, keep learning.